So I tell you, listen, that's the most important part of my day is just providing an environment where people could operate at their best, whether that's coaching you, mentoring you, pushing you to do better, running interference on the corporate side of the building. I think that's a big part of my job, is that part of it.
Just a quick reminder for you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better.
Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. Today, I have Jim Gilday, Director of Manufacturing for Bigelow Tea. Jim, thanks so much for coming on.
It's great to be here, Ari. Thank you. I'm going to put up with all this Red Sox paraphernalia to the left of me. It's 106. The Yankees been playing since 107, but
yeah.
Okay?
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Listen, this is the best sports wall you've ever seen.
It is impressive.
Yes. So what I will say though is it's the Made in America podcast. So we got to start off with the same two questions, Jim. What do you make and why do you make it?
We make tea, flavored tea, all types of tea, hundreds and hundreds of flavors of tea. And I'll tell you, it's a successful company that started in the owner's kitchen, and it has just taken off. And the one thing, when you say, why do you make it? I will tell you, the one thing that just resonates with me when I talk to the people who have been there is the growth of the company and how much it has changed through the years, but yet how the core values of our company remain the same. So, it's just a great place to be.
Yeah, listen, I think we've got a lot to dig into. First of all, Bigelow's been around for coming up on 80 years. Right now it's an amazing story. Housewife comes up with an idea for some tea, and boom, here we go. Actually, I think she was an interior designer, but in any case, you've been there for almost 25 years. Lots going on. The company's making big investments in growing leaps and bounds, and there's a ton to talk about there. So we'll get to all that. But before we do, just kind of hear your story, a lot of different people get into manufacturing for different reasons. What got you into manufacturing?
I'll tell you, I think like most people, I got into manufacturing by mistake. I never saw it coming. I was a student in school. I hated school. I'm antsy, I'm hyper, I can't sit still. I couldn't wait to graduate high school. I had gone to a tech school, Emmett O'Brien Regional Technical School, and I had gotten my electrical license. And I just, there was one day I had an epiphany at work that said, I should be doing more than just wiring houses. So I applied for a building maintenance job at Bigelow Tea. And I got it, and, just an amazing place. And I went from being the building maintenance supervisor to the maintenance manager, from the maintenance manager to the plant manager, and from the plant manager to the director of manufacturing. Never saw it coming. It was a huge curveball in my life, and it certainly worked out.
That's really that's awesome. So, have you stayed? I just want to talk about the tech schools because we've done a lot of talking about the technical schools in the state of Connecticut. For people that maybe haven't made the connection, our technical school system, not just the history, which we've got a lot of that, but the current iteration of the technical school system and how much we invest in it is really one of the best, if not the best, in the country. You stay connected with that system at all, given your current role?
Well, what's interesting is Governor Lamont recently appointed me to the CTEC board, which is certainly
full circle.
Yeah, so I actually think it's kind of cool. I have come full circle. I was a student of the CTEC program. I sent a son there, so I'm a parent of a graduate. And now, as a manufacturer, I get to have a seat at the table to really, in my opinion, help prepare students for career after high school. I think there are certain things that CTEC system does extremely well, and I think that there's certainly areas that they could grow and do a more effective job at.
Listen, everybody's got to keep, right? We're either growing or dying, so we got to keep improving. So let's talk a little bit about that, and in sort of your role on the board and what you see. Maybe talk a little bit about let's start on the positive side and some of the areas. Where do you think that the, CTECs, what they think they call it now, what do you think they're doing super well that's helpful in the manufacturing, from the manufacturing perspective?
So I've been on the board for about 2 months. So I want to just qualify that.
That's all right.
So I'm still that wide-eyed, doughy-eyed guy, who's getting on the board. I will tell you, both as a an electrical department graduate and a parent of one, that's what they do well. The shops, the trades. You want to be a plumber, you want to be HVAC, you want to be an electrician. That's great. You go through that program, they're going to teach you. You're going to get a work study, and although electrical, has changed through the years, maybe there's more solar or there's more relays or more electronics. At the most part, plumbing, HVAC, electrical to core is still similar. So that they do that well. They do that really well. They send kids to work studies. Those kids graduate. They get apprenticeships, and they do well.
Work study meaning I'm at school, I'm learning the trade, but then we got partnerships with companies that are going to help me kind of as part of my work, as part of my study, go get some like field
Yes.
experience. So I really, the difference between studying it and implementing it, sort of get best of both worlds.
Right. So my son, for instance, worked for an electrician. He went out. He was working on houses. He was working in commercial environments. That's more. He learned more there than he did at school. Where I think they need to grow a little bit is the manufacturing piece of it. I could tell you that we've tried to employ a few folks from the CTEC graduate program, and they're just, they're not ready to be to work on our high-speed teabag machines. They're not ready. They don't have the mechatronics piece. They don't have the electronics piece. That part is really where we have to grow and become more modernized. I don't think we're growing people to work on robotics, automation well enough. So I think that's where we have to focus our time and energy.
So you figure to contribute to kind of make those changes happen?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that is a real life, boots in the ground, in the trench manufacturer that I know those type of employers are looking for. Yes.
Yeah. What do you see, and this is super early for you talking about CTEC, but just in general, what does Bigelow do, or what do you see Bigelow doing to sort of partner with, whether it's the technical high schools or even community colleges, to really help kind of drive that partnership and collaboration, right? Because the school's got to do their part, but I think the business community needs to engage too to help close those gaps.
I think that we as employers need to do a better job to drive curriculum and to have a seat where the curriculum is being written. You're right. I think there are opportunities to have an input and have a voice, but I think those companies have to be willing. And I'll tell you, my company's great. So I do sit in, and I do sit on the CTEX board. I do participate in Manufacture Connecticut. I am on their workforce development board. I am the co-director of the MMSTI and Material Manufacturing Summer Institute. So I put myself out there where I do have a voice, and I do try to drive curriculum, and I do try to have an impact. I think just we need more companies doing that. We need more companies to look at the whole ecosystem instead of just their piece in it.
Yeah, well, let's elaborate on that. You mean look at the whole ecosystem, saying what? Like, I got to engage with at the educational level? Like, kind of what do you mean?
I think more companies, yes. I think more companies need to have the Jim Gildays of the world. I have a great friend of mine, Kathy Saint from Schwertel. I think you probably talked to her, right? Or Jill Mayer, you talked to her at Bede. They get out, they engage, they participate in Manufacture Connecticut. They go to the MMSTI. That's what I mean. We need to have more companies willing and to send people out into the trenches, into these environments to help drive curriculum and have their voices heard.
So it's really about about being out there, investing your time, right? It's not
Yes.
It's not about writing an op-ed. It's not about writing a check, but it's about really your time and expertise to help us build the future we want.
Yes, it's about the Jims or the Jills or the Kathys saying, you know what, I'm going to spend 2 hours here, and that may detract from my business a little bit, but I'm having a voice at the table. I'm improving the curriculum. I'm telling the schools, the Housatonic Community Colleges, the Gateways, the Emmett O'Briens, the Platt Techs, I'm letting them know what I need. And so, yes, I'm taking a little bit of time away from my work, but I'm making the ecosystem and I'm making the graduates better for all those other companies who exist in Connecticut. That's what we need more of.
Yeah, sort of that rising tide lifts all boats, right? We all got to if we all give a little bit, it's going to help. And you can't look at it super transactionally. It's not, hey, I'm going to invest this 2 hours. What am I going to get next week? It's about building those relationships and saying, hey, what's our employee base going to look like in 5 years, in 10 years? So we have the employees we need to grow. That kind of concept.
Yeah. So, for instance, I know that at a CTEC board meeting, maybe there's something more I could be doing at work, but I know that I'm confident that the impact that I'm making to make the CTEC system better, or the time I spend in Manufacture Connecticut to make our CTEC system better, our workforce better, is going to better the life of all manufacturers, lift up the state, and really connect business with education in a much broader way.
You find they're receptive.
Yes, 100%. I do. Our educational institutions, and again, I'm chairman of the board of ed in my town. Our educational institutions want to prepare students for the workforce. They want that. They want the partnership. I have never seen a case where I have felt teachers, academic advisors, college presidents. I have never seen an instance where they said, "Yeah, Jim, that's good. We're good." They want the feedback. I feel it in all those avenues that I participate in.
Yeah, they're out there trying to develop the skills that we want, and if they're missing the mark, it's by accident or by lack of information, not by intention.
100%.
Yeah, and they're willing to do it. So you talked about your kind of career path growth through Bigelow, and I'd love to kind of get into that a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about how that sort of progression happened. Was it a combination of like a really good training program there and some ingenuity by you? Walk us through your sort of growth path there, because you've had an interesting growth career at a company. That's impressive.
Thank you. I will tell you two things. One is I'm a pretty competitive type A personality who really feels like I bring my A game anything that I do. So I think that's I want to, I think that's part of it. But I'll also tell you that I work for a company and I work for an owner who values that. And I really think that in many cases along the way, she took a chance with me. I was a licensed electrician, right? And I got a building maintenance supervisor job. I was a building maintenance supervisor. I got the maintenance manager job. I went from the maintenance manager job and I became the plant manager. That is a leap of faith, right? So she put a leap of faith in me. I think she saw me bringing my A game every day, not willing to take the easy way out, trying to dig at the core of a problem. And I think what works well, truthfully, is that I work for a company that loves and honors people, and I just love people.
Is that it?
I do. I love everybody I work with. I just do. And so I just think my personality just was a perfect fit for the company that I work for. And I think that the owner that I work for, I love what she stands for. I love her ideals. I love the fact that it's a people company. And I think she did. She took chances on me along the way, and it's
chances seem to
hopefully
have paid
off for both of us.
So when you think about taking, it's funny you mentioned something that we, before we kind of went live here, which was that one of your key metrics that you guys talk about is tea bags per minute, right? So we talked about, but that despite that being the number one metric, that you feel like you could count on one hand the number of times you and Cindy have had to talk about the tea bag counts, but you talk to her all the time about people issues. And I wonder if you can elaborate on sort of that frame up and what you've learned from that and how you leverage that in the way you manage your team.
Yes. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I have significantly more conversations, times 100, with Cindy on people issues more than performance issues. She will always put people ahead of performance because that's just who she is at the core. I'll give you one small story. So we were super busy, business is great. We were in the process of buying new machines, and we were just working a ton of overtime, mandatory overtime, 28 Fridays a year, 28 Saturdays a year in some cases. So we really wanted to do two things. One, some of the other plants were working through or going to ask their employees to work through Memorial Day in May.
Like the whole weekend?
Yeah, work that Monday, right? Because we were busy, and so I didn't ask my employees because I wanted them to have their vacation, and we also created a voluntary system of overtime where if you don't want to work overtime, then you didn't work, and we made it work. We didn't make as many tea bags because we didn't work through Memorial Day, and we didn't make as many tea bags because we weren't making overtime mandatory, and she supported that. And she embraced it because at the end of the day, she was more concerned about the employees spending time with their families, employees not being tasked than whether or not we made as many tea bags as we were supposed to. And I love that. And it just meshes with who I am. And it's amazing to be at a company where your owner says, you know what, Jim, if you think you need to give your folks a break or reduce overtime, I support you. Amazing feeling.
That is an amazing
Yes.
feeling. So when you think about how that impacts employee retention, do you see that in terms of your ability to retain employees? Because we talk a lot. I should, preface this up by saying we talk a lot about finding new employees, right? A lot of manufacturers, really happy to hear about Bigelow's success. We'll talk more about that. A lot of manufacturers are having banner years across multiple industries, and they're all looking for employees. But one of the things that I think we don't think enough about is, do we retain the great employees that we have, right? Do you find that this type of behavior helps you guys retain more?
We have what's called the Teapot Club, and after 7 years, you go into the Teapot Club, and I will just tell you, well over 100 people at the last Teapot Club. I mean, yes, I could think of. Yes, 2 days ago.
By the way, just for the record, there's only 200 people and it's about 400 company-wide,
Yeah.
I think, 200 in Connecticut. So half of the people
Yeah.
have been there longer than 7 years.
Yes, and I will tell you, just on Thursday, and another great Cindy story, right? So on Thursday, one of our mechanics had a 35-year anniversary. One of our blenders had a few weeks ago had a 25-year anniversary, and so Cindy called me up on the Gentleman's Day to say, "Hey, I need to get out on the floor to wish, our employee's name is George, a happy 35th anniversary, and to thank him." Right? And here's another neat thing. So on your anniversaries, semantics. We don't say congratulations on 35 years. We say thank you for 35 years. And so it's just to the amount of people who have been at our company for 35 years, 30 years. I just left a meeting before I came here with an employee who's been here. March 6th will be her 45th year. It's really quite amazing. Yeah, the amount of longevity that we have at Bigelow is in Connecticut is remarkable.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that speaks volumes for what you get as a benefit for being able to treat people the way that you're talking about. And let me kind of pivot over to that. Doesn't seem to have been slowing down your guys' success in any way at all. This putting people first seems like business is going well.
Yeah, again, I think it's a successful business model. People want to work at Bigelow. They try their best. We have what's called the Bigelow Home, where we have the values, the Bigelow values, community, employee, being agile, being flexible, and we try to instill these in all our new employees. And I'll tell you, even our newer employees are just amazing.
What do you think has contributed to the growth, kind of going a little bit more macro? What do you think has been contributing to the growth of Bigelow Tea? Because you said in the last several years you guys have really been kicking it.
I think our sales and marketing team, so, right, you talk about bringing your A game every day. And so, I think Cindy, really that's kind of where she invests. Not that she doesn't invest her time everywhere, but, just from a sales and marketing perspective, it is just they bring their A game every day. There is no stone that goes unturned. They're aggressive. And I always tell people, not everyone knows Twitter and Instagram, now, but we were doing that before it was huge. We were doing that before it was cool to do. So I've always felt like we're ahead of the curve. I think just Cindy demands the A game, and I think that pays off in all aspects of the business, but certainly has shown from a sales and marketing perspective that it's paid off. A, and then B, and listen, I don't. Maybe I have to. People think I have to say this because I work for Bigelow, but I have drunk other teas. Our tea is remarkable. Our tea is phenomenal. Earl Grey. We use real oil. We use real bergamot oil. We don't use flavoring, and it just shows in our flavor. Without question, I think we have the best product.
Yeah, well, having a good product, having good sales and marketing, having good employee retention and efficient manufacturing, those are pretty good.
A good model, huh?
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
That's a good model. Right?
That'll work. Yeah. Those are pretty good things to tick off. So let's talk a little bit about what it takes to make tea, because I don't, it's just not something I've really, thought about. And we talked about before. I drink tea and actually drink Bigelow tea, but and my grandmother's talked about constant comment my whole life. I remember talking about it, but what does it take to make a bag of tea? You talked about sort of mechatronics. Why is mechatronics important at Bigelow? Talk to us about kind of like how it's done.
Well, so that's the machine piece of it, and I will address that in a second. I will just tell you that the amount of work that goes in from the sales and marketing team selling it to the planning and scheduling, working with customer service on getting the orders, to our buyers getting the raw material. And by the way, some of the raw materials not easy to get, right? We talk about, some of the flavors and ingredients in tea are coming from overseas and they're getting shipped on containers. And then you have the impact of COVID and the supply chain and how difficult that has been. And then you talk about getting it to the plants, and you talked about plants that had dealt with COVID and had in some cases 10 people out and trying to make that all work. So I would tell you a lot goes into the just from A to Z. So much effort goes into it. And there's really no one superstar. It's just a collective team effort. So I will tell you, from that perspective, it's just seamless, and everyone works together. I will tell you another thing that we do extremely well at Bigelow, in my opinion, there are no silos. We work together. We have this mantra, what else does this mean, right? And so we work together. We collaborate. I tried my absolute best to work with planning and scheduling, to give them the tea that they need when they need it. And I feel the same way from them. I feel if I have an issue, they'll work with us. So the collaboration is amazing at our company, and there is no big silos. So I think that's an important part of what goes into making a tea bag. Good.
So I just wanted to talk about sort of like technical way you make tea.
Sorry.
So that's right. Let's want to get into that a little bit. So
I will.
Because you guys got hundreds of flavors. So yeah, go ahead, get into it. I'm interested.
Yeah. So from the technical perspective, the tea is dumped, and some teas you'd be amazed at how many flavors there are. You could see as many as 10, 12 different flavors that go into a tea. Our tea delivery system and in the way that works, it's vacuum, it's computerized. It's just a really amazing process how all those tea and ingredients get mixed in time.
So what all the ingredients are in a computerized system that gets sort of programmed like
Yes.
like how I would picture like a CNC machine type?
It is. The tea and the ingredients are collected, and then they're mixed in a certain fashion. Yeah, and if I tell you much more than that, we're gonna.
That's right. I don't need to know the details. Yeah.
I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah.
But so once that happens, it goes into what we call our tea dump room, where the tea gets dumped to the individual machines, and from there it's really amazing. The tea gets dropped. We have a center wheel. The bag gets formed. It gets turned. The tag gets stapled onto it. The bag gets cut. It goes on an incline chain. We have so many quality measures built in. I could tell you if the bag is straight. I could tell you if the top fold has been folded the right way. I can tell you if the tea bag staple is there. I could tell you if it's underweight, if it's overweight, if it's
All of this from the machine.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive.
Impressive.
Has that changed a lot since what you've been there coming up on 25, actually coming up on 26 years, I think, actually.
26 years in December.
In December, yeah. So has it changed a lot, the technology over that period of time?
I will tell you that we have definitely built more controls into the machines to ensure the quality of our product. Definitely. Things that we would, although we still expect our operators to check the product, but we have initiatives built into the machine now to catch product that may not meet Bigelow standards. Again, so I mentioned staple sensor. We know whether or not the bag has a staple on it.
Staple sensor. That's cool, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I could tell you whether or not. So you talked about opening your bag, right, and taking your tea out and putting it in the ceramic cup earlier. So when you opened your bag, I like to think in most cases that bag came right out of the foil.
Yeah.
But sometimes if that bag is not straight, it's off just a little bit, and these machines are running 220 tea bags a minute. If it gets caught in that seam, there's a sensor for that.
Get
I'll know
outta
that.
here.
Yeah, I'll know that.
220 bags a minute?
It gets caught in the seal. Yeah. Yeah. Now listen, in Fairfield, our the OEM of the machine is 220 tea bags a minute. That's the output. Once you factor in material changes, we're making tea bags about 175 tea bags a minute. The other plants have machines that are just a little bit faster. They're closer to 300 tea bags a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, we're pumping out about 2.5 billion bags.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it takes a lot of
That's
firepower to make that.
That's a lot of tea.
It's a lot of tea.
That's a lot of tea.
We make a great product, but yeah, it's a lot of tea.
That's wild. So
2.5 billion bags. That's
it's just a lot,
that's
right?
impressive.
I'm like, I was actually, I'm trying to move on to another question, but in my mind, I'm trying to think about if I had 2.5 billion bags. It's a big. That's some warehouse space right there.
It is some warehouse space. We did. I remember, and I'm not gonna have a good enough memory, but at one point on our TV screen it said we made enough tea bag. We used enough strength to like wrap around the world or something remarkable.
Yeah. I feel like the old McDonald's sign would be like 500 million served. I just sort of feeling like that tea bag count. So that technology is like pretty impressive to really make sure you guys are getting that done. You guys continue to invest in technology. I don't know that I just wanted to bring it up because I think I want people to understand how high tech manufacturing is, and it doesn't matter if you're making a helicopter or a submarine or a jet engine or a sail for a sailboat or whatever or a bag of tea. Everybody's leaning forward and investing in technology, and you guys clearly, to be a leader in your space, got to do it too.
Yeah, I'll tell you, our most latest venture is a robotic palletizing station. And this is really remarkable. So what this does is our cases, so the machines make the tea, right? It makes the tea bag. It automatically puts the tea bag in the unit box. The unit box goes up and over a conveyor. It goes into a case packer. It gets pushed into a case packer. Nobody's touched it. From the case packer, it goes out to a robotic palletizer. The robotic palletizer packs it on the appropriate, determines what flavor it is, because in any given time we're running 10 flavors in any day. It determines what flavor it is, puts it on the right skid. Once the skid is full, we have a self-driven automated robot that comes and pulls it off, that takes it to accumulator conveyor. It runs down accumulator conveyor. Another self-automated robot takes it off the accumulator conveyor and brings it down to the loading dock. The only time we touch it is from that last accumulator conveyor to the truck. Now, which is really remarkable.
That is remarkable.
Really remarkable. We have technology that we don't touch the product. And what's, again, going back to Cindy, and what's neat about our company, that resulted in no layoffs. So will we become leaner down the road? Sure, but that will be done through attrition, through retirement. There will any of these improvements we've made. We have another gift robot that packs our tea chests up automatically. That does that.
Would you call it a gift robot?
Gift robot. So we have a tea chest. So it actually picks the flavor, packs the tea chest, it automatically glues it, it picks it up, it lifts it. We have a case former that forms the case, and it puts it inside the case all by itself.
Get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is high tech, to your point. Nobody lost. No, we still have this
same. Yeah, employees. Everybody keeps their job. Yeah,
right. So there's no layoffs. We become efficient, and I work for such an amazing company that when it's time, through attrition,
maybe
we'll be leaner.
A little leaner, sure.
Yeah.
Or just making a lot more bags, or do something
And that
different,
as well.
add a line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who manages and runs these robots? Like, someone's got to program them, right? They don't just run on their own.
So we have an amazing internal engineering department. Our director of engineering is simply probably the smartest guy I've ever worked with, and so we are very fortunate that our internal engineering department is up on all this, understands all this. Our own internal head of engineering ran this project, conceptualized this project, in his head. Now, clearly, we passed it off to professionals who installed the robot. But he just visualized it. The overhead conveyors I talk about, where the product comes out and over, all internal. An internal engineering department. We're just fortunate that our engineering department, which also makes us competitive, is top notch. We outsource very little when it comes to doing work like this.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you really, that's a big investment to kind of bring these people on board, right? Because they're not cheap, and then you got to be thinking about, okay, well, what's my ROI? They got a lot of pressure on them to keep finding new and innovative ways to find stuff and then get it out there. But it sounds like those investments are paying off leaps and bounds.
Yes. To your point, having qualified, state-of-the-art, visionary engineering department helps keep us current, helps us do projects like this, helps make us better. And because we're the type of environment that people want to work, that head of engineering that I spoke about started the May before I did. So he's also been there for 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So just what does a robotic palletizer robot look like?
It's a mirror. It's that little. That doesn't help the TV, does
That's
it?
right. That's right.
Hey guys.
Yeah, exactly.
it's really it's about a 3 by 3 foot by 4 foot. It's really
square
3 foot by 4
rectangle,
foot rectangular vehicle that has wheels.
Yeah.
That is all done computer programming.
So it just uses like what the Wi-Fi, like some type of wireless communication.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
where it is.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
And how does the item get onto it? You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the pallet is in a station. When it's full, it sends a signal to raise it up. It raises it up. The mirror also gets a signal. It drives over, and it drives under the pallet. Once the mirror's under the pallet, another signal gets set that says lower.
Lower.
It lowers it, and it goes up.
And it knows when it has like a weight sensor, so it knows when the thing's on it.
Yes, and I forgot the critical step. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
One critical neat thing is when I said it goes out to the accumulator conveyor. Before that, it goes through the shrink wrap tumble by itself, and it gets its ticket, so we know where it's going, barcode and everything, all by itself. Nobody touches it.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is wild.
Yeah.
And so, like, what does a gift box wrapping robot look like? Right? Because in my mind's eye, right?
There's two different ones. There's the
Okay.
3-station case packers, which are huge. They're big, like mini dinosaurs.
Okay.
You know, they're big. But the gift robot one is not much bigger than this microphone setup.
This little arm here. So
It's
it's
not
like,
much
what,
bigger than that. The
2
gift
by
robot.
2, yeah.
Not much bigger than that. And it works off of computer programming. It knows where to pick. And it's all about, unlike people, once you tell it where to put it, it will do that every single time the same way. Our gift robot is not much bigger than that. A little bit, but not much.
Not much. And it just got a little like a 3-prong finger thing at the end to pick up the individual.
It's more of a
bags.
vacuum. It's more of a cup.
Oh,
a
like a
suction
cup. So it suction
Yeah,
cups it
suction
up and
cup.
then drops it right back
Yes.
where it needs to go. How does it know what the different flavors are?
It does it by location. It does it by location A goes to spot A. Location B goes to spot B. It does it more by that. Now, we do have cameras built into it to make sure that all 8 slots are filled. We have a camera that can know the color. So if lemon lip, which is yellow, is where constant comment is, which is red, it could tell that as well.
So it's like that's a pretty smart little. It's a pretty smart little robot then, right?
Yes.
Got a little color recognition, got a little visual to know if my boxes are full. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and closes it by itself, glues it by itself, lifts it by itself, erects the case by itself, and puts it in by itself. And that would have, and again, we repurposed those 3 people, but there was 3 people who would do that, and now one person does that line. And then what one person does is puts the cases on the case erector and refills the case stock.
Yeah, feeds the robot basically, essentially.
Yeah. So we went from 3 to 1. And again, no animals were harmed.
No animals were harmed in the making of this robot.
No animals were harmed in the making of the robot, and no people were laid off.
No people were laid off. That's awesome. So, are you heavily involved in all of this automation stuff?
I will. So here, me and John, who's the director of engineering, kind of always have this agreement. So I do a lot of the coordination and a lot of the communication and making sure everything is, all the ducks are in a row. And when the project comes, it's his. So I would tell you from a planning perspective, yes. From a making sure that we're ready and that people know their jobs and that people know what they have to do and they know when they have to do it. 100% involved. But as far as running the project, our engineering department is just remarkable.
Remarkable. So what does a director of manufacturing, for people that are out there listening, might be like, what does a director of manufacturing do? What does a director of manufacturing do?
I think that my most important job is to provide an environment where the people who do their jobs can be successful. And that means a lot of different things. That means removing obstacles. That means if there's things that are prevent them from doing their job, then I help remove them. That helps pushing them to be their best. It means if they are themselves are not looking at solving the problem the deepest way, pushing them deeper. So I tell you, listen, that's the most part of my day is just providing an environment where people could operate at their best, whether that's coaching you, mentoring you, pushing you to do better, running interference on the corporate side of the building. I think that's a big part of my job is that part of it.
Man, I bet people. I can imagine. Jim, people really appreciate a leader like that, right? Looking at and pushing them to make them better, removing obstacles. That's those are. It's a good person to work for, I would think.
I think that I've been fortunate to Cindy. Is a great example of people who just push you to be your best, and I am where I am today, the things that I do, because I have people like her who just, I never got offended to that. I always knew that she just wanted me to be the best. And I think as I look back at my 26-year career, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, man. Well, it certainly sounds like you've done a lot, and sounds like a lot more excitement coming down the line. What do you see in the future? Like, what does the next sort of 5 years at Bigelow look like from your vantage point?
I think the next year at Bigelow for the next 5 years is really a big part of that is just adjusting to the success that we have had. When I started 26 years ago, we were almost I don't want to say a small company, but in many ways we were. We probably had 60 people, 70 people in the plant. I told you about 110 now. We have outgrown the building where we had to we lease a warehouse. So I think that we have machines that are we have that gift robot machine, not the gift robot, but the machine that makes that is old, is probably getting to the point where we need to look to replace that. So I think the next 5 years will be spent preparing for the 5 years after that, because business is great, business is expanding. The jobs of tomorrow are going to be programming the robotic palletizing, making sure that our engineering department sustains itself. So again, I think the next 5 years is it continues to adjust to the success that we've had and prepare for the future that's coming.
Dude, I absolutely love it. Jim, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. You ready to go to a rapid fire round of questions?
I'm ready to go. We're doing this before the
We're doing this before the Maker's Mark. Yeah. All right, here we go. Red Sox or Yankees?
Yankees, all day long.
All right, we're going to have to edit the show. Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Staycation or exotic destination?
I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm going with exotic.
Absolutely. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Sports car or SUV?
SUV. No. Tesla. Do I have to? Can I interject?
Yeah. You're allowed to change your mind.
Energy efficient car.
Tesla sports car, the Model S there.
Tesla sports car.
Yeah, ludicrous motor, whatever they call it. You have a favorite business book?
1 Minute Manager.
Oh, that is a good one. If you haven't read that in a while, I got to bring that one back. If you could do anything other than be the director of manufacturing at Bigelow, and it had to be something else, it could be anything in the whole wide world, what would you do?
I'm torn between mayor of the city of Derby, where I've grown up, and probably running a nonprofit organization and spending my time on helping people less fortunate than me. That would probably be what I'd like to do.
Jim, what's something that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think's helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
That no one will ever care as much about where you're going than you will. That if you need something, you have to do the work.
Got to do the work. What's something that you learned later in your life or later in your career that if you could go back and tell young Jim, and if he'd listened to you, it would have a real positive impact on his life?
At times, I wish younger Jim was more humble and not as cocky at times. So to be more humble and that would be it. To be more humble. Be more humble.
Mm-hmm. Learn from those around you, maybe.
Yes, I was probably a little cockier back in the day.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Being honest.
That's the whole point. That's what we're trying to help people learn. But something you did learn, and it's gotten you a long way. Jim, it's been really fun having you on. I really appreciate you spending the time.
My pleasure. It's been excellent.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by CompassMSP.
Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a strong manufacturing community, and it would be impossible to do without all of you.